this video, we'll cover the process of downloading a database file into a Danfoss pack controller. For the example here, I have a AKPC 782B. This is something we will be doing locally. I have my USB cable connected in from my PC into the USB port that's on the front of my pack controller. So let's just say we're in a situation where we've arrived on site, we've powered up the controller, the pack controller specifically, and realize that there's no setup in it. And so we go back to the factory or the OEM, and they say we have a database file, and that has to be loaded in. So we'll now run through that process of doing just that, where we'll begin by opening up our Service Tool software. I'll make that connection in. And again, down at the bottom here, we have part number and firmware version of the device we're connecting to. And an important piece of this, if it is a file someone is sending us that they've already created, it would be important that they're creating that file, that database file with all of our setup, our parameters, our set points and whatnot, that's being created at a version that's equivalent to what we have. I'll go ahead and log in here, supervisor and 1, 2, 3 as our defaults. And as you can see, not a whole lot on the screen, pretty blank as far as data that's being presented. So that clues you in right away to the fact that there's nothing set up in here. In our service tool view of our pack controllers with the icons we have down along the bottom, if we hit our yellow wrench icon to get into the configuration menu, we'll have an option here for copy settings. And within copy settings, there's this blue square off to the left towards the middle of the page that we can select. And we have some different options with a pop-up window that appears from there. And one would be to back up the setup of the pack controller. So I would be able to, if I have a setup in place that I want to save onto my computer, use this backup option. In our case, where we don't have anything in the pack controller and we want to load a file into it, we would be choosing restore. The file format of the files that we're looking for to load into the pack controllers is a BCK file. And so you can see here I have an example of that file on my desktop named demo.bck. I'll go ahead and select that file, hit open. Wait briefly here while that loads in from the computer into the pack controller. Once that's complete, you may get a pop-up window, and this ties into trying to load a database that's been created at an older version into a newer firmware version pack controller. You may get a prompt just saying, here's some new features that were in the pack controller that the database file did not have associated with it or didn't have configured, and you may want to review these and check and see if they're set to where you want them to be. Otherwise, though, we'll get the pop-up here saying that the database has been loaded or restored. We can hit OK from there, close out our window, our pop-up window. And if we now select our, I call it an overview button here that has the compressor and gas cooler pictured at the bottom left to get us back out to our main screen. Now you can see quite a bit of data populated to indicate that the setup has been installed. So seeing information for different suction groups in the pack controller, gas cooler, high pressure valve and receiver bypass valve on a transcritical CO2 system is what we're looking at here. But this would be your indication that I've loaded that database file in, the pack controllers accepted it, and now I can go through and do my commissioning or troubleshooting or whatever the next steps are based on the situation you're in. So this is how you would go in and load a database into a Danfoss AKPC pack controller.